Kansas City Chiefs versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, look, everybody thinks about the Chiefs, and I love that tease because I think you and I are actually kind of on the same path there.
Okay.
Here's what I'm noticing about Tampa Bay before we get into Kansas City, who at this point they're the Death Star when it comes to the NFL. Or if you're a Chiefs fan, maybe they're the Jedi Warriors, just to give, just to totally geek out on this. But I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are the 800-pound gorilla, if you like, business buzz stuff, right?
One.
Look, man, when the playoffs start, this is why, like, the power rankings, I'm coming out and I'm saying Pittsburgh Steelers number one. And actually, we'll talk about this later, but I think you can make the definite argument that right now the Pittsburgh Steelers are the better team. Kansas City Chiefs, I got to say, they beat the Raiders 34-31 in that Sunday night game, which is fantastic. And I two things noticed to me. One is the Raiders are for real. And two, I think the Kansas City Chiefs actually played one of their best games of the year and snuck by with that 3-point victory. So I'm not worried that they're struggling to beat the Raiders because you and I, Brad, both like the way the Raiders play football.
Sure.
I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they stopped the run, which we know, but their defense looked like they looked last year and that they couldn't stop a thing passing. But you got to give some credit to the Los Angeles Rams for doing what they do, right?
I think you do. And I think for the first time, I haven't been big on the Rams too much, and I hadn't been big on Goff, and I still don't think he's one of my favorites or the guy.
Right.
But they definitely looked very balanced. They looked very fast. They schemed very well, and I'm going to have to start giving them more credit than I have been because they're 7-3, and they looked great, man, and they pulled it out.
Yeah, I mean, we all along, you and I, Brad, we thought that, just to quickly speak about the NFC West, we thought the NFC West is the best division of football, the second best division being the AFC North. Although you could make the argument with the ascension of Cleveland and how they're playing football, maybe they're about equal or whatever. But the bottom line is we thought three playoff teams, especially with the 7-team playoff for each conference, we thought three playoff teams would come out of the West. And the Rams, I got to say, Goff really showed me something because the Tampa Bay took that run away, and we both criticized Goff and say, look, if the run game's not there, he turns into Matt Stafford. He turns into kind of like a maybe not necessarily a 500 quarterback, but he's at that level.
Yeah.
Which, depending on if you're a Rams fan or a Detroit fan, like some people would look at that as a compliment, some people wouldn't.
Sure.
But but you and I agree on that. But for the Buccaneers to take away that run game, what ended up happening was Goff just basically just carved him up. Goff and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. I love Cooper Kupp, man. That guy is phenomenal.
Yeah, and it was funny because I posted, I did the podcast yesterday, the Fantasy Football Almanac Show, and we were talking about Kupp, and I love him too, and I had him higher. I've been higher on him all year, and we were talking yesterday morning before Monday Night Football, because we record on Monday mornings, that Cooper Kupp was disappointing us a little bit, and then he comes out and has his best game of the season. And the first half, he was uncoverable. Tampa Bay adjusted in the second half, but then Robert Woods started going off when they adjusted to Kupp. So, look, I look at this game, a couple things, takeaways, is I noticed so far this year when Tampa Bay has a bad loss, they come back and they ball out. They're very much like Green Bay in that fashion. You lose a game, and then you shred somebody this week.
Sure.
Which, by the way, teaser for later, the Green Bay Packers right now, the Chicago Bears, Bovada has at plus 7.5 versus Green Bay. I think Green Bay is going to shred Chicago, so it's one of my favorite bets this week.
I would have to agree on that. We'll get that one out the way.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in the rapid fire.
Sure.
Dude, Brady throwing the interception when they had a chance to at least tie.
Yeah, well, he threw two bad interceptions, and they're 10 games into it or whatever it is. It's a whole new cast. Right, and I think that's what you're going to see for the first year. You're just going to see some inconsistency, and they're just not there. You can see they're like a few things away from clicking, in my opinion. They're just a couple things they got to figure out. They haven't figured it out yet, and when they do, they may have the most talent in the league.
That's true.
There, right?
That's very true. Although, we've talked about this in years, and you're a Green Bay Packers fan, is people who follow the show know quite a bit. And we look at the Chiefs last year. We look at the Green Bay Packers that year. They started 11-0, 13-0, or something like that. They started, but they're rolling through people. I'm talking about the Packers. This is 2017 or so, whenever it was. They're rolling through people. And it might have been 2016, like the year after the Super Bowl. Rolling through people, they were unstoppable the first half of the season. And then you start seeing chinks in the armor. And, they're getting by and they're still undefeated like 13 weeks into the season, but they're getting into the playoffs and you did not feel good about that team.
Right. And then they lost to New York, right?
Yeah. And then last year, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I remember us talking, Kansas City, I think they dropped the game to the Tennessee Titans last year, and they were 6-4, and we're like, look, come on, man, Kansas City. And I remember us talking about this, like, enough is enough, man. Like, they got to stop losing these games. No disrespect to Tennessee back then. But they got to start winning these games. And then they didn't lose a game the rest of the year because Kansas City, the defense kept playing, and they peaked as they got into the playoffs. So I wonder what's happening because I feel like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sliding backwards slightly defensively. And that gives me a little bit of concern.
They did slide back a little bit. But I do think their defense matches up well against Kansas City, which is why I think that they may surprise everybody this week. They're very fast side to side, and they swarm, right? And beating Patrick Mahomes is a tall order, but I think I don't know. I just have a feeling that they're going to match up very, very well with them. Mm-hmm. That could be the bonehead statement of the year. I actually do think Tampa is very good, and the defense is not the problem.
Yeah.
I think Tom Brady and the offense, they don't always gel, and they're just a little bit away.
Yeah.
At this point.
And I feel what's interesting is I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, certainly the Kansas City Chiefs, have all the pieces to win the Super Bowl because they're the reigning Super Bowl champions. So we know that. And Kansas City, I still feel this way. I still feel like we haven't gotten the best out of Kansas City outside of maybe when they played and throttled Baltimore
this year.
Yeah. So and Tampa Bay, you're right. It's like sometimes they came out like they blew the doors off of Green Bay, but as you know, Brad, and as I kind of mentioned after that, it's like Aaron Rodgers, when was the last time he threw back-to-back picks? One was a pick six, one puts them in scoring position. You take those two picks away, if they just punt on those drives, that's a 10-ish point possession game in the fourth quarter. It wasn't blowing the doors off. So anyway,
but the Packers had a 10-point lead at that point, right? So it was a real game.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Packers getting steamrolled up until those picks, but I mean, they did happen, so that's how it goes. But I see your point. I do.
And to that point, like Bucs fans would be like, well, they forced the picks and all that. So don't get defensive Bucs fans. What I'm trying to say here is Tom Brady throws his interceptions. He's not going to throw those interceptions every week. And they do have to figure some stuff out. But what I'm trying to say is if Tampa Bay fulfills their potential, they are a team that can win the Super Bowl. They can win the Super Bowl. Now
they can for sure. They can for sure. Let me just say this. Tom Brady did throw two picks where it's almost like he didn't see the guy. He didn't see the guy in coverage.
Yeah.
Just really kind of random. And I don't know how to explain it. And it's not like I'm saying he's lost it or anything. That'd be insanity. But they were two very terrible throws where a safety was chilling in coverage and he just missed them. So, but that's not going to happen every week.
So some of this, to use like a baseball analogy, like a lot of times – in the middle of a season, a star hitter will get traded from like the American League to the National League. And he's been so good for like 6 or 7 years in the American League. Then suddenly he's facing a whole bunch of new pitchers. And it's like Tom Brady for years, he played the Steelers every year. He played the Colts every year. Of course, the people in his own division.
Enough.
Now he's in another division. He's getting, a lot of changeups and a lot of curve. They're just different defenses.
Yeah,
maybe there's a little bit of that. But he's he's kind of seen everything too, so it's hard for me to like figure that out. Maybe the game planning, maybe the room, maybe Belichick is better at getting you prepared before the game than Arians and Leftwich are. I don't know what it is, but you're right. It is some uncharacteristic mental stuff going on, which is interesting.
Well, I'd like to think that Belichick probably is the best at getting you ready, and combine that with the best quarterback in history. And that's the 2 decades of dominance is the result you get. So maybe it is Arians is just kind of missing the boat. He's just kind of off himself.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, it still could be a little bit of chemistry. But look, I mean, bottom line is Tampa Bay is 7-4 now. They played this week, and then they have a bye in week 13, I believe, which I find odd. Nobody's on bye this week, and then we get a bye next week, which is kind of weird, but whatever.
That is bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of a weird thing. But again, back to this game and the matchup. Like you said, I do think they match up. But what kind of concerns me is I didn't feel like Kansas City was going to be able to run the ball against Tampa Bay. Kansas City's passing offense is better than the offense of the Los Angeles Rams. So I felt a little bit more confident in my pick yesterday before having seen this. But, the thing is, overreaction and all that stuff. I'm not going to overreact. I still think Tampa Bay is a really quality defense, and I still think they match up well.
Thank you.
And Kansas City's got to be up for this game. They got to be up for this game,
Well, can we say that that's been their biggest problem this year, is that they haven't exactly gotten up for games, and they're playing down to their competition, maybe because it is so easy. It's just a theory anyway. But like you said, they should be up for this game. If you can't get up for a game against Tom Brady and Gronkowski, you got problems.
And part of this too might be they're so damn good. I mean, Kansas City, what are they, 9-1 right now? Right?
Yes.
9-1, and we're talking about how they, how they're not playing up to their.
I know,
and they're 9-1.
It's so true because they haven't beaten anybody by 35 in a long time, but they're 9-1. Come on.
Is it possible that we're getting preseason game plans for them? Are we not getting the real creative stuff from Kansas City because they're just so much better than everybody?
It's a great point. Maybe they're holding back a little bit. Who knows?
I don't know. And I'm not gonna bang them for just winning by 3 or 4 points or whatever it was against the Raiders, because I think they got the Raiders' best shot. It's a division game. They know each other.
Yeah.
I mean, Gruden knows this defense. It is no problem for Gruden to score points on the Chiefs. And actually, if I'm the Chiefs, I do not want to play the Raiders in the playoffs. At 100%,
all. 100%. Because the Raiders don't fear them.
No, they don't.
They don't see them as the juggernaut.
No.
Not at all. So you're right. I would not want to see them if I was Kansas City.
So those division matchups, man. Like if I'm Tampa Bay, by the way, I don't want to see the Saints in their game.
Right.
I don't want to. But anyway,
if I'm Green Bay, I don't want to see Minnesota.
Yeah.
Right?
You won't. You won't.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but anyway, this game is interesting because I do think the matchup is very strong, and Kansas City, I do think that they were ready for that Raiders game. They're gonna have to be ready for this Bucs game, but I think they will be. I feel like the Bucs are gonna, or I'm sorry, the Chiefs are gonna look at this almost like, hey, is this a potential Super Bowl matchup? Let's see, can our team be there?
Is that?
And I think the Bucs are going to be there, and I think their defensive line is going to be flying around like a hornet's nest and trying to out-physical everybody. It's
just because of the Bucs loss last night, I don't think they're any less viable to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Agreed. I mean, they're playoff teams, and they're really getting ready for January.
100%. And it's a 3-point loss, right? And there's no shame in that, and that's just how it goes. Both teams can't win, right? And I think the Bucs are just as much as a contender as anybody else in the NFC at this point.
Yeah, agreed. So let me get you with the line then. Bovada has Kansas City -2.5 versus Tampa Bay. Who you got?
I'm going to throw out a wild card, and I'm going to say Tampa takes this, gets the victory.
It's funny, Brad. I actually picked Tampa Bay to win in an upset, 30-24.
Wow. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Especially coming off a loss. I don't know, man. And this is one of those games I'm actually not going to put money on this because, look, Kansas City playoffs, one game, got to have it. It's hard for me to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs, even against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're the Steelers in a got to have it Super Bowl type situation, AFC championship game. They would give me a bit of pause. The Steelers, to me, and the Chiefs are playing the best football, and I would say the Pittsburgh Steelers, what they're doing right now, Week 12 of the NFL season, I would say they're better, but this isn't the playoffs yet.
Yeah, right.
One game, single elimination. It's hard for me to ever pick against the Kansas City Chiefs with what they can do. But this week, man, it's a regular season game. We're going to see,
this
man.
This week has a different feel.
It does.
I can't believe we're on the same page with this. I like that.
Yeah. Go figure, right? Let's move it on. Let's go to another game since we were